Actually, it took me a long time to realize that Japanese studies was what I wanted to focus on. It was just because of happenstance. I had always been interested in language and culture, so I decided to study Japanese in undergrad. However, at that time there was no major for Japanese where I studied, and I had been more focused on European languages. I'd studied German and French. But it wasn't really until after I graduated and actually went over to Japan that I started to understand that studying Japan was much more rewarding to me than studying these other European cultures, even though those were also very interesting to me. I eventually went into studying comedy. Part of the roots of that was when I first went over to Japan and just turning on the television, and it was during a time of, they have these booms of comedy, and so that would set the roots for what would later be what I studied.
I came to Japanese studies growing up when I did and hearing about Tokyo in the news and wanting to learn more about Japan, and also through reading Japanese literature. It's ironic that the first Japanese author I read was Natsume Soseki, and then I go on and study and work with his granddaughter, Yoko McLean, who has inspired my book project and inspired me to be a better professor.
I was drawn to Japanese studies by chance, really. In the summer between my junior and senior years of high school, I was selected to be an American Field Service summer exchange student. And by random selection, I was assigned to live with a family in Kyoto, Japan. Of course, I had never been to Japan, so that experience as a high school student had a great deal of impact on me. It was the summer of 1969. It was the summer of Woodstock, and it was the summer of the first man landing on the moon. For me, it was, of course, a very exciting time. I went to Yale University as a college student, and I ended up majoring in Japanese language and literature. After graduation, I worked for a brief time for a Japanese public relations company, and I was kind of overcome by a sense of having not completed my endeavors in really learning to master an ability, a capacity to read Japanese literature in its original forms. So I returned to graduate school.
I was drawn to Japanese music 15 years ago. I was doing research in the music library at University of Michigan when I discovered a CD of beautiful no music for shakuhachi, and I knew I just had to learn to play this flute.